Welcome to Thought Frontier.
You ever notice how, like, when a storm rolls in, all the birds just seem to vanish? 1 second, they're all chirping away, and then bam! It's like someone hit the mute button on the whole park.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, where do they go?
Right. It's like they have some kind of sixth sense for this stuff. Well, we've got a whole stack of articles here all about how birds weather the storm. Literally.
Literally.
So, what's the most common tactic? Do they all just have, like, tiny little bird umbrellas stashed away somewhere?
Well, a lot of birds are masters of disguise, actually. They'll find shelter under trees and bushes, using the leaves kind of like their own personal umbrella system.
Okay, I can see that, tucking up under a tree. But is that really enough to stay dry? I mean, a few leaves isn't exactly a raincoat.
You'd be surprised. Some birds, like chickadees, they actually cling to the underside of the leaves, so they're completely hidden. And they'll just go totally still, conserving energy and letting the water just kind of roll right off those incredible feathers.
Wow, talk about making the most of what you've got. But what about those birds that don't really do the whole sitting still thing? The ones with a little more, wanderlust.
That's where things get really incredible. Some species, especially seabirds, they've actually evolved this almost unbelievable ability to sense storms way before we can.
Wait, are you serious? How do they do that? It's like they have a built-in weather app or something.
It's wild, right? They have these super sensitive nerve endings, mostly in their ears, that can pick up on even the tiniest changes in air pressure. So basically, they can feel a storm coming.
That is mind-blowing. But okay, so they can sense a storm. What do they do with that information? I mean, it's not like they can build a little bird bunker or something.
Some of them, they take action. Think of it. These birds become like feathered meteorologists. They'll actually eat a ton of food, stocking up on energy.
Oh.
And then they take to the skies, flying sometimes hundreds of miles just to stay out of the path of the storm.
Hundreds of miles just to avoid a little rain. That's some serious dedication to staying dry. Okay, so we've got the hiders, we've got the avoiders. What about all the birds that are usually closer to the ground? They can't just fly away every time it drizzles.
You're right. And they've got their own bag of tricks. Take robins, for example. They're pros at what you might call temporary burrowing.
Burrowing, that seems a little intense, doesn't it? What do they actually do?
It's all about being opportunistic. Robins and other ground-dwelling birds, they'll use whatever cover they can find. Fallen leaves, thick shrubs, even little nooks under rocks. It might not seem like much, but it makes a big difference.
It's amazing how resourceful they are. So they're adapting using their surroundings. It makes you wonder, though, are there any birds that just kind of tough it out, just sit there and take the rain?
You know what? You're right on the money with that. And this is where the whole feather thing gets even cooler. Because you see, a bird's feathers.
Feathers? What, like they're just going to pull a feather over their head and call it good?
Not quite. That's a funny thought. But seriously, feathers are like high-tech rain gear. They've got this amazing structure with all these interlocking parts that actually repel water.
So like thousands of tiny little umbrellas all hooked together.
Exactly. And to make things even more waterproof, birds have this special oil gland near their tail. And they use their beaks to spread that oil all over their feathers. It's called preening.
Preening. I always thought that was just them being tidy. So it's like a whole waterproofing ritual.
You got it. That oily coating keeps the feathers from getting waterlogged, even in a downpour. Some birds, like ducks and certain seabirds, they have a huge gland. It helps them stay afloat, even in rough water.
Wow, nature is amazing. But I gotta say, even with all that, I still worry about them in those really long storms, the ones that just drag on for days. Do they ever reach a limit?
It's tough on them, for sure. Even with the best rain gear, all that cold and wet weather, it takes a toll. They have to keep their energy up, stay warm. But finding food when it's constantly raining, that's a challenge.
Yeah, it's not like they can just order takeout, right?
Right. And just like we might get a little stir-crazy stuck inside too long, those long storms can really weaken birds, makes them more vulnerable, to getting sick or even starving,
Yeah.
especially the smaller birds.
Oh, the poor little guys. They work so hard to survive out there. Makes you wonder, is there anything we can do to help? I mean, beyond just putting out bird feeders, which I do, by the way.
You're already ahead of the game. And that's huge, especially high-energy food. But yeah, we can do even more. Think about making your whole yard more bird-friendly.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of stuff are we talking about? Give me the bird-friendly to-do list.
One simple thing, give them options for shelter. Birdhouses are great, especially for birds that like nesting in cavities. But you can also try roosting boxes.
Roosting boxes, what are those? Like a bird hotel or something?
You got it. It's like a little apartment building for birds, designed just for sheltering, usually smaller than a birdhouse, and with a few different ways to get in and out. Good ventilation, too, so it doesn't get too damp inside.
So, prime real estate for a bird looking to get out of the rain. Makes sense. And I'm guessing location is key here.
100%.
Yeah.
You'd want it somewhere sheltered, away from the wind and rain if you can. Maybe under an eave or tucked into some bushes, even attached to a tree trunk.
Yeah, undercover bird real estate. I like it. This is making me rethink my whole backyard. But what about people who aren't, master builders? What can we do to help?
Planting native trees and shrubs is huge.
Right, because those provide natural shelter.
Exactly. And not just shelter. Native plants also mean insects, berries, seeds. It's like an all-in-one bird buffet.
So cool how the right plants can make such a difference. Okay, so we've got food, we've got shelter. Anything else?
Got to think about the hazards, too.
Yeah.
When it rains really hard, even something like an open bucket or a bird bath,
Oh, you're right.
they can be really dangerous for birds. They just want a drink or a quick bath. And
It's easy to forget about those little things. It's funny, we started talking about where birds go in the rain, and now I'm looking at my whole yard totally differently.
that's what it's all about. We're more connected to nature than we realize.
Right.
Even small changes can make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. Storm dodging birds, feather umbrellas. I've learned so much. Any last thoughts for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Next time it rains, don't just run for cover. Take a minute to really see the birds. The ones tucked under leaves, the ones huddled in the bushes. You might even see one braving the storm, feathers all shiny. It's pretty amazing.
I love that. Such a good reminder to pay attention to the little things. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive on birds in the rain. It's been an eye-opener, that's for sure.
My pleasure. Until next time, keep those eyes open and stay curious.
And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating topic.